this video, I want to talk about Buddha's final teaching, his final words. So he stated, all compounded things in the world are changeable. They are not lasting. Work hard to gain your own liberation. Practice diligently. So this is a whole teaching in itself, really. I mean, the first part of the teaching, all compounded things in the world are changeable and they don't last. So here he's talking about impermanence. And what are compounded things? Everything. Everything in the whole of this universe is compounded. It's made up of two or more things. So if something is made up of two or more things, then those things come together, it exists. And when those things come apart, it ceases to exist. And that goes for everything in the universe. Anything you can think of is impermanent. So in his final words, he wanted us to understand that everything is impermanent. If you have a look at all of his teachings throughout the whole time that he was teaching, you'll see that impermanence comes up all the way through. And why is that? Because a lot of our suffering that we cause ourselves is caused because we see things as permanent. Okay, on an intellectual level, we all know impermanence. Yeah, but we don't live our life like that. We don't, we rush out and we buy something new. So we buy the new iPhone, and we've been waiting so long for this new iPhone to come out, and we rush out and buy it, and it's mine, and look at this, and you show everybody and you hold on tightly to it. But it's impermanent. It will not last. So by holding on tightly to things, we're causing ourselves a huge amount of suffering. So Buddha's final words to us was just to remind us that all things are compounded. And if they're compounded, it means they're changeable. They will not last. The second part of the teaching, he talks about work hard to gain your own liberation. So what is liberation? Liberation is nothing, mystical or fanciful here. Liberation means to reduce your suffering, and so you can reduce the suffering of other people. This is what we're talking about. Now, whether in one lifetime we're able to alleviate the whole of our suffering is down to us, really, and the amount of effort we put into it. But we can certainly, on a day-to-day basis, start reducing that suffering, start lowering that suffering for ourselves. And once we start to alleviate that suffering for ourselves, then we find ourselves in a position where we can start to do it for other people. And people will see us, leading by example is always the best way. So people will see that, they're doing this, and look, they're not suffering. I should do that. So he spoke about impermanence, but he also spoke about, gaining our own liberation. Only we can gain our own liberation. Nobody else can do it for us. So Buddha came and he gave his teachings so we could start to reduce our suffering. He could not reduce our suffering. No teacher can reduce your suffering. All they can do is show you the path. This is the way to go. Point you and guide you along the path and make sure that you're steering you in the right direction. But they cannot. Nobody can walk the path for you. That is entirely up to you how you're going to walk that path. Sometimes we'll be on the path, sometimes we'll drop off, and sometimes we'll come back. I mean, it's not, people seem to think that the path is like a straight road. Once I'm on it, it's a straight road. It isn't, of course. It's meandering. Sometimes we're going good and not so good, and then very good, and I mean, it's like that. That is how life is. Life is up and down. Our journey along the path will also be meandering and up and down. But we have to take on that this liberation will only come about when I do the work. The liberation, most of the liberation needs to be done here. So who can do that? Only you can do that. Only you know what is going on up here. Only you know what is happening in your mind. You know your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your perceptions, your biases, discriminations, concepts, habits, all of these, only you know. So it means that only you can actually liberate yourself. Nobody can liberate you. So he wasn't talking about bowing down to some guru or going up to the top of the Himalayas to find a guru sitting in a cave and touching his feet and thinking job done, or washing yourself in a particular river or something. These are not going to get the work done. We have to put in the effort. So we have to work hard to gain our liberation. It is hard. It is a path that is going to be challenging. It's a path that is sometimes going to be extremely difficult for us. But it's doable. Everything to alleviate our suffering is doable if we put in the effort. The final part of his teaching, his last words was, practice diligently. This is a must. You know, we cannot just sit and read books and listen to podcasts and watch videos about the teachings of Buddha and think, yeah, okay, I understand the Four Noble Truths, I understand the Eightfold Path, I understand there's non-self, I understand all of this. Understanding is not going to get you very far. Understanding is knowledge. It's second-hand. Somebody is showing you, giving you, that's it. But it's not what you're thinking, it's not what you're feeling. We need to turn that knowledge into wisdom. And the way of doing that is by meditating on the teachings. So study the teachings. If you have any doubts, ask questions about the teachings, meditate on the teachings, and then implement them. It's that. Implement, practice diligently, Buddha said. You know, really put a lot of effort into practicing, because if we don't put the effort into that practicing, we are not going to get a result. It's no good once a week for an hour going to a Buddhist center and doing some puja and, you know, bowing down to the teacher. It's not going to get you very far, that. We need to actually understand the teachings. We need to clear up any doubts. Don't worry if you have doubts about teaching. You know, along the way, I've been studying for many, many years, too many years, and I've had doubts along the way. But, you know, a teacher told me once about the doubts. Try to clear those doubts up. But if they still stay with you, so a lot of Western people get hung up on rebirth. You know, they've brought up Christian and they're told that there's a heaven and there's a hell, and they don't really believe that. They come to Buddhism and now we're talking about being reborn again, which is an alien concept. Don't let something like that stop you carrying on going to the path. Just put it to one side for now. As you go along the path, keep revisiting it, see if it makes more sense to you. If it doesn't make any sense at the time of death, don't worry about it. If there is rebirth, we are going to be reborn, no matter what, whether you're Buddhist or whether you believe or not. If there isn't rebirth, then we're not going to get reborn. So really, I would say, put all these things, these doubts that you have, maybe karma is a doubt for you, rebirth is a doubt, just put them to one side and just keep visiting them. Don't let that become a wall to stop you doing your teachings. You know, just go round the obstacle and keep coming back to see if I can, you know, eventually understand it. So we need to practice the teachings. We need to meditate on them, make them part of who we are, implement them into our lives. It's only by that implementation that we are actually going to stop our suffering. We can't stop our suffering from reading 20 books. Oh, I've read all these books and all these different things, and now I can talk a lot about Buddhism. Great, that's lovely. but it's not going to alleviate your suffering. In fact, it's probably going to make you have more pride and bring on more suffering. So it needs to be implemented. So Buddha says in his final line, in his final words, practice diligently. So as we've gone through this Buddha Dharma series, we've touched on all the key, what I believe are the key foundational teachings of Buddha. So of course we haven't been able to talk about all the teachings because they are extremely vast, but I didn't want to go into too much depth. I wanted to just give you the foundation that you can start building your Buddhist practice on. And that's what these 14 videos have been about. So we started off by talking about the 3 poisons. You see, for me, this is the starting point for us. Now, I know Buddha's first teaching was on the 4 Noble Truths, but I think for us, just to have and hold on to those precepts, the 3 poisons, and obviously those 5 precepts is extremely important, because if we can hang on to the precepts and we understand the poisons, that we're not going to let those poison our mind, poison our way of thinking, and we're going to do our best to refrain from killing things, refrain from stealing things, refrain from, using our bodies in a way to hurt other people. We're going to make sure that we're not lying to people. And also, we're not taking any illegal drugs or drinking alcohol to excess, because that will disturb the whole of our mind. These are the starting points, the 5 precepts and the 3 poisons. We need to first of all try to abide by them. Now, these are not commandments, they're not thou shalt not do. They're just, if you do them, there will going to be consequences, of course. If you don't do them, your mind is going to be peaceful and calm, and when it's peaceful and calm, it's easier for us to implement Buddha's teachings. So for me, that is the starting point. Then we need to look at the 4 Noble Truths, and not just understand that, there is suffering and this causes it and there is an end to it and this is a path I can follow. It's not an intellectual exercise. In fact, that the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path can be a lifetime's work. If you spend your whole of your life doing that, then you probably still won't get to a point where you're satisfied that you are completely following that path, and everything you think about and do, in the back of your mind, you understand about suffering. So the 4 Noble Truths, again, are something that we need to practice. So we need to first of all understand them, clear up any doubt, meditate on them, turn them into wisdom and implement them. So don't just look at, I can see there is suffering. Really understand there is this suffering, and this is the causes of it. And remember, most of the causes of our emotional suffering are ourselves. We bring that suffering onto ourselves. So in some way, that's great news, because it means that if we're doing it, we can stop doing it. So it is good news. And the 3rd Noble Truth about there is an end, and if there isn't an end, certainly we can reduce that suffering. We can begin to alleviate the suffering. The Eightfold Path is not just something that we should look at and just understand and not implement. We need to be spending the rest of our life implementing that Eightfold Path. Every part of our thinking, every part of our actions of body, speech and mind have to be in line with the Eightfold Path. In that Eightfold Path, there are some very, very important key teachings, like the first one, having a wise view. So a wise view means a view that everything is a delusion, really. I mean, I'm seeing things out of my own perspective, not the way they are. Impermanence, again, comes into that wise view, and so does the important teaching of cause and effect come into that wise view. Of course, our intentions are there, and then our actions of body and speech and mind and mindfulness, putting in effort and meditation are all in this path. Every one of them are key. So when we're on that Eightfold Path, don't think we have to do number one and get the number one right, then to number two and number three. We have to get them all, and we have to keep doing them all. So it's a real important thing for us to be looking at. Another key teaching that we touched on was the 8 worldly concerns. Again, there are so many worldly concerns, but Buddha picked out 8 different ones. So it's so important that we don't get pulled to the extreme. So the extreme of pleasure and the extreme of pain. And we walk down the middle path of those 8 worldly concerns. If we can do that, then we're going to, again, alleviate a lot of our suffering. Next, we spoke about the 4 immeasurables. Now, all religions, and if you look upon Buddhism as a religion, and a lot of people do, so all religions talk about compassion. But actually, Buddha took it a step forward and talked about the 4 immeasurables. So why are they immeasurable? Because if you do these things, they're endless. So the 4 are equanimity. We see everybody as equal, and our mind is nice and stable. It's not being pulled to the extreme. It is going down that middle path. It is a balanced mind, and we see all human beings as equal. There is no end to that. There's no end to keep seeing people. It's not like, okay, I can see people as equal, now I can stop that. Again, it's a lifelong thing, so it's immeasurable. Kindness. We need to be kind to people. Kindness means that we want people to be happy. So in whatever way that we can, we want to help people be happy. Then the third 4 immeasurables is compassion. And compassion here is about, we don't want people to suffer. You know, kindness, we want them to be happy. Compassion means I don't want anybody to suffer, and whatever I can do to help alleviate other people's suffering, I will do. And the final one was open-hearted joy. So here, this is a joy that we appreciate what's happening to other people. It's not about me. I'm happy and that's fantastic. It's about that these things are happening to other people and they are happy, and I rejoice in their happiness. So again, these are meditation practices that you need to keep doing to be able to build up these 4 immeasurables. But remember, they are immeasurable. There is no end to our compassion, to our kindness, to our equanimity, and to the joy that we have in appreciating what's happening to other people. The next teaching we did was the non-self, or a sense of self teaching. Very difficult for many people, and funnily enough, out of all of these videos that I posted in the Buddha Dharma Series, this one has had the most questions, where people then how are we reborn, and how is karma, how does karma go to the next person if there is no person? And so I'm not going to go into all of that here, but just remember, this self we have built up, this sense of a self, we have built up ourselves in our minds. There is nothing permanent about us. There is nothing we can touch to say, this is myself. It's not the body, it's changing all the time. Our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, our perceptions, our concepts, our biases, discriminations are all changing. They're flowing like a river. So there is nothing we can hold on to and say, aha, that is myself. So you need to really think carefully about this, because so much of our suffering comes from having this sense of self. Once I believe that I am a solid self, I have this self, then I need to protect that. So it's really important that we have and understand that we have just a sense of a self. It isn't real. So these are what I call the foundation teachings. So they're the key teachings. If you can understand them, it builds up such a great foundation, and then you can build your Buddha practice on top of that. So I'm going to give Buddha his chance to have the final say out of the whole of this series. So he stated, "I say to you that these teachings of which I have direct knowledge and which I have made known to you, these you should thoroughly learn, cultivate, develop, and frequently practice, that the life of purity may be established and may long endure, for the welfare and happiness of the multitude, out of compassion for the world, for the benefit, well-being, and happiness of all beings." Thank you so much for joining me in the Buddha Dharma series. I hope you've taken lots of benefit from it, and I wish you all the best on your path. Namaste.